Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring something pretty incredible, how AI is actually transforming mental health care.
Yeah.
Like imagine a world where technology can predict and even help prevent, mental health crises
Wow.
and offering that personalized support and guidance like never before.
Yeah, it's a fascinating frontier. We're not just talking about treating those existing conditions, but using AI to understand and support mental well-being in totally new ways.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll be looking at real-world examples of this, like how AI is being used for that early detection of anxiety and depression in students,
Right.
PTSD therapy for veterans,
hmm
and even predicting suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, we'll delve into all of that, the potential of AI, but at the same time, acknowledging how important that human connection is and those ethical considerations, of course.
Yeah, definitely. It's a complex landscape,
Mm.
and our goal is to give you a balanced perspective. So let's start with a program at the University of Redacted that's using machine learning to predict anxiety and depression in students. And what's really interesting here is they're not just looking at grades, they're analyzing a whole range of data.
Right. It's a much more holistic approach, gathering information from social media activity, sleep patterns, tracked through wearables, of course, and even biometric data like heart rate variability.
Okay, wait, hold on. Before we go any further, can you explain what heart rate variability even is
Yeah,
and why it's relevant here?
of course. Yeah. Heart rate variability is basically the variation in the time between heartbeats.
Okay.
It's subtle, but it can tell us a lot about a person's stress levels and even their emotional state.
That's fascinating. So by combining all this data, the AI can get a much more complete picture of a student's well-being.
Precisely. And it allows for that early intervention. There's a story about a student who was flagged by the system. Initially, they were skeptical, as anyone would be.
Right.
But this nudge led them to counseling, which turned out to be exactly what they needed.
Wow. That's a powerful example of how AI can be used to identify those at risk, before problems escalate. And Professor Yusen Zai, who's leading the research, emphasizes that this isn't about replacing counselors.
Right.
It's about giving them a really valuable tool.
Absolutely. Early detection is crucial in mental health, and AI can help us identify those patterns and risk factors that we might not otherwise even notice.
This makes me wonder, could this approach even work in other settings beyond universities? What do you think?
It's certainly possible. I mean, imagine similar systems like in workplaces, maybe community centers, or even integrated into telehealth platforms. I mean,
Yeah.
the potential for widespread impact is huge.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Let's move on to a completely different application of AI, PTSD recovery. We're going to hear about John, a veteran who actually had difficulty with traditional exposure therapy.
Yeah, exposure therapy is a common approach to treating PTSD, but it can be really challenging for patients to confront their traumas directly.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
And that's where AI steps in. John started working with an AI system at Sanctuary AI, and they use emotional recognition technology to create a safe space for virtual exposure therapy.
Right, and the system analyzes facial expressions, vocal tone, and even body language to gauge John's emotional state in real time,
Wow.
creating that personalized and responsive therapeutic environment.
So it's like having a therapist who is always attuned to your needs and can adjust the therapy accordingly.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. The AI can, dial back the intensity if it senses the patient's becoming overwhelmed or gently push them further if they're coping well.
Wow, this level of personalization is remarkable. How did John respond to this type of therapy?
Well, John found that he could confront those triggers, but in this virtual environment, at his own pace and without feeling judged.
That's great.
And he made significant progress and was able to manage his symptoms more effectively.
That's fantastic. This example really highlights the potential of AI to make therapy more accessible and maybe even more effective. Do you think this approach could be helpful for other anxiety disorders too?
It's definitely a question researchers are exploring. That ability to tailor therapy to individual needs and responses has, broad implications for treating a range of mental health conditions.
Now let's shift gears to some groundbreaking research that was actually published in Nature Mental Health. This study explored using AI to predict suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, the results were pretty remarkable, analyzing various data points like mood fluctuations recorded in an app, sleep patterns from wearables, activity levels,
Wow.
and even subtle cues in social media activity. The AI was able to predict suicidal thoughts weeks in advance.
That sounds almost like science fiction, to be able to predict something as complex as suicidal thoughts. Can you break down how this AI actually works?
Well, the key is machine learning. The algorithm was trained on massive data sets of individuals who had experienced those suicidal thoughts. And that allowed it to learn those subtle patterns and correlations in the data that we as humans might miss. It's like connecting the dots in a way that was previously impossible.
Yeah, that's incredible, but it also raises some ethical questions, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, the potential to save lives is enormous, but we have to carefully consider how this technology is used and the implications for privacy and autonomy.
Yeah, it seems like there's a fine line between using AI for good and potentially overstepping boundaries. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a complex issue. There are no easy answers. We need to have those open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of AI in mental health care.
So while the potential of this technology is really exciting, responsible development and implementation are crucial.
Precisely. We need to make sure that we are using AI in a way that benefits individuals and society as a whole while safeguarding against those potential risks.
It's a lot to consider, but I think it's important to have these conversations. What's your take on this, listener? How do you feel about the idea of AI being used to predict suicidal thoughts?
It's definitely something to reflect on. I mean, the potential benefits are significant, but we really need to consider the ethical implications and ensure that human oversight and individual well-being are prioritized. So before the break, we were talking about those more clinical applications of AI in mental health. Now we're shifting gears a little bit to something different, using AI for personal growth and well-being.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting for me personally. So we've seen how AI is being used to address those serious mental health challenges, but can it also help us manage everyday stress and enhance our overall well-being?
That's exactly what we're going to explore. There are a growing number of AI-powered programs and apps that are designed to support personal growth and stress management.
So instead of waiting until there's a problem, this is about proactively using AI to improve our mental fitness.
Right? Think of it as having a personalized AI coach
Okay.
available 24/7 to guide you on your journey to better mental well-being.
Okay, I'm definitely intrigued, but I'm also a little bit skeptical. Can AI really provide that kind of personalized support?
Well, let's look at an example. There's a program that is designed specifically for AI professionals
Wow.
to help them manage stress and prevent burnout.
AI helping AI professionals. That's kind of meta, isn't it?
It is, and it highlights how pervasive AI is becoming in our lives. So this program starts with a psychological assessment
Okay.
to understand the individual's needs and goals. Then it uses data from various sources like mood tracking apps, wearables that monitor sleep and activity levels,
Right.
even calendar data to understand work patterns to provide tailored recommendations.
So it's not just like generic advice.
Yeah.
The AI actually analyzes your specific situation and suggests personalized strategies.
Exactly. It might recommend mindfulness practices, cognitive behavioral techniques, time management strategies,
Right.
maybe even suggest, specific reading material based on your current challenges.
That's really impressive.
Yeah.
But was it actually effective? Did people find it helpful?
There's a great anecdote about Yuan,
Okay.
who's an AI researcher, and understandably, he was skeptical at first. He thought, how can an algorithm understand the complexities of human stress and well-being?
Right.
But he decided to give the program a try, and he was really surprised by the results.
What happened? Did the AI coach actually help him?
The AI helped him to understand his own stress patterns and gave him those practical tools to manage them. He found the program surprisingly insightful and effective in reducing his work-related stress.
It's amazing to think that AI can be a tool, not just for treating mental illness, but also for supporting well-being and personal development.
Hmm.
It seems like there's a whole other side to AI that's about empowerment and helping people reach their full potential.
I think that's a really important point. There's been a lot of focus on the potential risks of AI,
Right.
and those are definitely important to consider.
Of course.
But we also need to recognize those incredible opportunities that it presents for improving our lives.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about finding that balance between cautious optimism and responsible development.
Now, before we wrap up this section, I do want to acknowledge that there are, of course, potential downsides to using AI for personal growth. We need to be mindful of things like data privacy and the potential for algorithms to kind of perpetuate existing biases.
Yeah, those are valid concerns. Can you elaborate on that a bit more?
Sure. When we're using AI that's analyzing personal data, it's just crucial to make sure that data is being handled responsibly and ethically. We need to have those clear guidelines and regulations in place to protect people's privacy.
And what about the issue of bias? How can we ensure that these AI systems are fair and equitable for everyone?
That's a challenge that researchers, developers are actively working on. AI algorithms are trained on data, and if that data reflects existing societal biases, the algorithm can perpetuate those biases.
Right.
It's important to be aware of this and to design systems that are as fair and unbiased as possible.
This brings up another important point, the role of human interaction. Even if AI becomes incredibly sophisticated in understanding our emotions and providing personalized support, can it ever truly replace the human element of care?
That's a question that sparks a lot of debate.
Yeah.
Some believe that AI will eventually be able to replicate human empathy and connection, while others argue that there's something fundamentally human about these qualities that AI can never really fully grasp.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this?
Personally, I believe that human connection is essential for well-being, and I don't think AI will ever fully replace that. However, I do think AI can be an incredibly valuable tool to enhance human interaction and support.
So it sounds like finding the right balance between AI and human interaction is key.
Exactly. AI should complement and augment human capabilities, not replace them.
Well said. It's been a fascinating discussion so far, exploring how AI can be used not just to treat those mental health challenges, but also to empower individuals and support their journey to better well-being.
We've covered a lot of ground,
We have.
but there's so much more to discover in this rapidly evolving field.
And with that, let's move on to the final part of our deep dive. We'll be exploring some emerging trends in AI and mental health, including the use of virtual reality and the development of increasingly personalized mental health apps. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of AI and mental health. We've explored how AI can be used for early detection, therapy support, and even personal growth, but there's still so much more to uncover.
Yeah, it's a field that's constantly evolving, like new applications and advancements are emerging all the time.
And before the break, we touched on the idea of AI being integrated into our daily life, to support our well-being. It's a fascinating concept. Like, imagine AI systems in our homes, schools, and workplaces, providing that personalized support and guidance for our mental health.
It's a vision of the future that's becoming, increasingly plausible.
Yeah.
Think about AI-powered tools that could, monitor our mental health.
Alert us to those early warning signs of distress.
Wow.
And recommend personalized self-care strategies.
Yeah, it's like having a virtual mental health assistant by our side, constantly looking out for our well-being.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
And while some might find that idea intrusive, it also has the potential to, destigmatize mental health and make it easier for people to seek help when they actually need it. Like, imagine a world where it's just as normal to track our mental health as it is to track our physical health.
Yeah, that's a powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
But it also raises some important questions about data privacy and access. Who would have access to this information and how would it even be used?
Those are, critical considerations.
Yeah.
As AI becomes more integrated into our lives, we need to ensure that appropriate safeguards are in place to protect people's privacy and autonomy.
Right.
Transparency and informed consent are, essential.
It sounds like we need to strike a delicate balance between leveraging the power of AI for good while also being mindful of those potential risks.
Absolutely. Responsible development and implementation are crucial.
Yeah.
We need to have those open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of AI and mental health and ensure that these technologies are used in a way that benefits individuals and society as a whole.
Speaking of emerging trends, one area that's really captured my attention is the use of virtual reality, or VR, in mental health care.
Yeah, VR is opening up some incredible possibilities for treatment and prevention. Like, it can create those immersive and realistic environments that allow patients to practice coping skills, confront their fears in a safe and controlled setting, and even experience positive emotions.
We talked earlier about the challenges of exposure therapy for PTSD.
Right.
It seems like VR could be an incredibly powerful tool for that.
It is. VR allows therapists to create those personalized exposure scenarios that are tailored to the individual's specific triggers and anxieties. The patient can gradually confront their fears in that virtual environment and, build confidence and coping mechanisms along the way.
And it's not just limited to PTSD. VR is being explored for treating a wide range of conditions, from phobias and anxiety disorders to depression and addiction.
Yeah, the applications are vast. For example, VR can be used to create simulations of social situations for individuals with social anxiety, or to provide those mindfulness exercises in calming virtual environments for people who are experiencing stress.
It's amazing to think about the possibilities.
Yeah,
And it's not just about treatment either. VR can also be used for prevention and early intervention.
that's a crucial point. There are VR programs designed to help young people develop resilience, coping skills, and emotional intelligence,
Wow.
which can protect them from, developing mental health problems later in life.
It's like giving them a mental health toolkit before they even need it.
Exactly. And these tools can be incredibly engaging and effective for young people who are often more receptive to like those technology-based interventions.
We've also seen an explosion of personalized mental health apps in recent years.
Right. These apps offer a wide range of features, from mood tracking and journaling to guided meditations and those cognitive behavioral therapy exercises. And they're becoming like increasingly sophisticated, using AI to personalize the experience and provide tailored
It's
recommendations.
like having a virtual therapist in your pocket,
Right.
available 24/7.
In a way, yes. And for many people, these apps can be a valuable complement to like traditional therapy, offering additional support and tools for managing their mental health.
But can these apps really replace traditional therapy?
That's a complex question, and the answer really depends on those individual needs and circumstances.
Right.
Like for some people, apps might be a good starting point, a way to, dip their toes into the world of mental health care before seeking professional help. For others, they might be a valuable supplement to ongoing therapy, providing additional support and tools.
So it's important to remember that these apps aren't a one-size-fits-all solution.
Absolutely. And it's always a good idea to consult with a mental health professional to determine the best course of treatment for your, individual needs.
This has been an incredible journey through the world of AI and mental health. We've covered so much ground, from the science behind the technology to the ethical considerations to those real-world applications that are like changing lives.
It's a field that's full of promise and challenges, but I think it's clear that AI has the potential to revolutionize mental health care in some really profound ways.
As we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. As AI continues to evolve, what role do we want it to play in shaping the future of mental health?
That's a question for all of us to consider. But I really hope that we can, collectively strive to harness the power of AI in a way that promotes well-being, fosters connection, and empowers individuals to thrive.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of AI and mental health. It's been an enlightening conversation.